Recording started. There we go. I double clicked it. I apologize, everyone. I'm gonna have to start over again. We're gonna have to do
Don't
that
worry
one
about
more
it.
time.
You caught it at the perfect time.
Yeah. So
You get a take two. That's rare with stuff
Take-
like this.
yeah. I usually hit the recorder like right as soon as someone comes in, but you came in at the same time. So I was like, I gotta introduce everyone. Okay. Anyway, 5 minutes wasted, not the worst thing. Welcome to Time Enough Podcast. It's the podcast where we talk about the Twilight Zone and beyond. Sometimes twice, as I didn't hit the record. It's only the second time I've ever done that. But
I did it with a full hour on a TTRPG podcast. We lost a full hour of gameplay. It was pretty
ouch.
unfortunate. Yeah,
but
that was a tough one.
Yeah, you get that little shock in the heart when that happens.
Yeah, you feel
Just
a
like
little sick.
Just like a good Twilight Zone episode.
Ooh, that's a good tie-in.
Yep, this is Matt here. I guess I'll introduce who's talking first this time. Hello, Jessica Lynn Verdi.
Hello, I can't help myself.
No, it's cool. What do you have? You got the improv group Ripley. You've got Mission Log Orville podcast, which
sure do.
People can now go and hear most of season 3 as a record hearing this, and the You Don't Know Nick podcast, which apparently doesn't have Nick currently.
It does not have Nick right now. I'm so glad that you know that. I gave him paternity leave kindly. So I'm doing a series where I'm just interviewing people I want to talk to.
There we go.
Yeah.
And our regular here today is Andrew. Hi, Andrew.
Hi.
You
Hi.
said off air before I even hit the record the first time that you've regretted watching the After Hours again. Which
I must have had it confused with something else because, yeah, we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it. There are things to talk about. I guess I'll talk a little bit of trivia first, which I got to read again. Rod Serling penned this episode while Douglas Hayes directed. Hayes had a fair amount of journeyman TV credits in directing, acting, and writing, and in film helmed the 60s rendition of Beau Guest, which is far from the best one, unfortunately. The score is by Bernard Herrmann, but repurposed from Where Is Everybody? So if you're having deja vu watching this episode, that could be why. Marcia White is played by Anne Francis, who is absolutely sci-fi royalty for her starring role in Forbidden Planet. She later starred in the TV series Honey West, which holds the odd distinction of being the first network series named after its female star. Apparently, there was an Annie Oakley show earlier, but that was syndicated, so it doesn't quite count. Elizabeth Allen is the saleswoman. She appeared in the Hawaiian-located Donovan's Reef and Diamond Head, as well as plenty of TV appearances, including Kojak and Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. She lived the TV actor's dream by joining the lead cast of 5 different TV series, though none of them really took hold of the zeitgeist and none of them have an active wiki page. James Mulholland played Mr. Armbuster, and his niche was basically playing nervous, befuddled men on TV. He did show up as a psychiatrist in Andy Griffith's 1958 film, No Time for Sergeants. I was actually surprised Andy Griffith was a film actor before a TV actor, because I didn't know that.
Yeah, not at all. You would never have assumed he was in a film ever.
Yeah, really. Well, you'd think of him as a Matlock or Andy Griffith, right? So
right.
So Face in the Crowd. Haven't seen a Face in the Crowd.
Oh God, what? That's ringing a bell. Yeah. Oh yeah. You know what? I haven't seen it. I just know what you're talking about.
It's a great movie, man.
But I guess in this case for our Serling plot summary, I'm going to ask the professional voice actor to do this, which would be Jessica. I could ask Andrew, but it takes him like a minute to dry his lips. And,
gotcha.
And then he looks like Fire Marshal Bill from In Living Color. So.
Oh goodness gracious! Yeah, let's spare everybody from that. All right, let's see. All right, I'm going to do my best Rod Serling. Express elevator to the 9th floor of a department store, carrying Miss Marcia White on a most prosaic, ordinary run-of-the-mill errand. Miss Marcia White on the 9th floor, specialties department, looking for a gold thimble. The odds are that she'll find it, but there are even better odds that she'll find something else, because this isn't just a department store. This just happens to be the Twilight Zone.
All right, little curl of the of the sound at the end. They were perfect.
What was what do you mean curl?
Something like that, like a
Twilight Zone.
There we go. Yeah, it's like how I
Zone.
envy people who can roll their R's. Can you folks
Oh,
roll your
sure.
R's?
I just taught my boyfriend how to do that. I didn't realize he didn't. I didn't realize it was just something that I could do, but you can practice it. Like, you just,
Yeah, I
it's
can't.
practicable.
I can't. I've never done it. I've never
Because you
done
took
it.
German instead of Spanish.
Oh, that
okay.
very well could be it as well.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Yes. I forgot all my German though. It's gone. So I guess Andrew, I ask you because it's an elephant in the room. Your impressions.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Oh no. What do you want to know? What I think about this episode, or why
are you so angry to be on this episode of the podcast?
I'm not angry. I'm mad at myself.
You're fuming. You're red in the face. Sweat is rolling down your brow. It's actually uncomfortable for all of us.
I'm
mad at myself mostly because no, I would. This is not one of the ones I elect to watch because I have a serious childhood fear of mannequins.
Oh, so you're not cool with Chatty Cathy either, I guess.
Nah, no. It's specifically to mannequins. I don't know if you've ever heard of this movie, Tourist Trap. But it was a movie I saw when I was a kid where people are turned. It's a group of teenagers, instead of being killed by a slasher or a maniac, are turned into mannequins by like an evil magician, and their heads like spin around, and it's really, really freaky. And yeah, seeing that when I was very young made me afraid of mannequins. And yeah, they're very unnerving. And in this episode, the way it zooms in on the faces, and it's
so upsetting, especially when you see her closer towards the end without, jumping too far ahead. But I had never seen this episode, but when they're basically all looking like the way all the actors are holding themselves, looking like mannequins, and then just move into real life. It's a freaky episode. So I would never judge anyone. Although I do know someone who has a irrational fear of being attacked by a whale on land. So that's crazy, but I would never make fun of someone else's irrational or rational fear.
No, the whole point of that is that, I as soon as I started watching it, I realized what I'd done.
Was it easier to watch as an adult knowing better?
Oh, absolutely not. No, it wasn't. It was not.
You poor thing. A fair amount, actually, but I can sympathize with your fear a little bit, because one of my absolute fears is being in It's a Small World by myself, like not in the boat, but like right off on the shore. Everything's on and nobody else is there. Yeah, that's kind of a fear of mine, I think.
I think that's what happens though, right? Didn't they do an episode of Family Guy where they just take lost children and they put them in Family Guy, or they put them in the little It's a Small World? That's what happens to the kids that get lost.
Oh, and they get turned into wood. It's like a reverse Pinocchio.
Ooh, it's kind of like the Tourist Trap, but meets Pinocchio. This is freaky. I think we just came up with a TV show or something.
I won't be watching, but
fair.
It's everyone here.
Fair.
This is a really disquieting episode, and it seems one of the things I really love about is I watched it like 4 or 5 times prepping for this. And I've seen it several times in the past. I actually have seen this one a lot, and I can never figure out quite what it's trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, I think he summarizes it pretty well in the end. Because he basically saying you don't know who you're walking around with.
Yeah,
that's what he's really positing, is like, you don't know who. I almost walked away going, could I be a mannequin? Like this woman literally thought she had a mother, and she was getting a gold thimble for her mother. She lost. You know what I'm saying?
Bizarre, really bizarre trip she was making in the first place. So.
You're not wrong.
Do the mannequins like have like an apartment that they go and get and for a month at a time? Where are they just walking the streets for a month?
That's a great question. Like, do they? Yeah, who's paying for their wellness and their shelter?
Do they need to eat? There's so many.
This is important questions you're asking.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're not supposed to break down these Twilight Zone episodes like that far, but I don't know. There's something you could do with that. So,
but I guess you're right though. If there was more of a clear cut moral to gain from this episode, you probably wouldn't question those things. Because really, just what's supposed to be creepy about it is the style, right? Is what's happening in real time. You're supposed to be freaked out by that, and it's sufficiently freaky for sure.
now,
I would have to say that horror is the point of this one.
Is
Just
that personal or is that?
I'm just throwing that out there.
Gotcha.
the psychological horror, but actually, so the thing that got me to email you, Jessica, to do this episode was listening to one of your podcasts, walking around in a rice field at midnight as a guy, and you saying like as a woman sometimes you do feel like a certain dis-ease like going out a lot.
Yeah, sure, totally.
And I did feel like maybe that's like a thread to pull on, on this episode.
I'm so glad that you brought me on for that, because first of all, it still blows my mind when I talk to men and I'm like, yeah, we fucking hate walking to our car. Walking back to our house from our car. Sorry, I don't know if can I curse a little bit or no? You don't want to do that.
I have a fantastic edit.
Great.
Censor.
I'm not going to curse if I can help it. But like just the act of walking to one's car, to one's home, is even if you live in the safest neighborhood, it will put a woman at dis-ease, exactly as you put it. One of the things that really interested me about the Marsha White character is she was really combative. Like first of all, even being on an elevator alone with a man is uncomfortable. Like I don't walk around with that, but that's something else that like unconsciously women try to avoid as much as possible. They'll try to put themselves behind the man, exit last, etc. But she like willfully gets off of onto the 9th floor into pitch darkness almost, and just like kind of goes, this is weird. It was just weird that she wasn't alarmed right off the bat. But then when she was dealing with the clerk, the lady, she wasn't having any of it. She was really pushing back, and I was actually very impressed that that she was written that way, and B, that she stood up for herself. And then it was a whole horror escapade when she was locked in the department store after hours. That was horrifying. I don't know if she handled it exactly how I would have handled it. Also, how amazing was that shot with her behind the frosted glass windows? That shot was gorgeous. You could have shot that today and it would have looked the same. It was an amazing shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, the Twilight Zone, you can like take out almost any still and, make a photo out of it. I have no trouble finding the podcast artwork for these episodes.
Sure, totally. Yeah, I think there's you're right that it is like a semi-feminist episode in the sense that you're just seeing strong female characters. The men are totally dimwits, except for the elevator dude. Mr. Armbruster or whatever, he's just the worst. What funny acting though. And it would be an unnerving situation, for someone not to believe you and think you're just a hysterical woman. That's so upsetting. And that happens so much to women in general, where they're just generally not believed because we're emotional about something. And then B, to be locked up in a place, it's weird. It's freaky. Also, how does she remember all of a sudden that she's a mannequin? Like, there's a couple things that I would have liked to see. Is like, what happens for her to remember that she's a mannequin?
Well, I found it a little disturbing because it's kind of like like you said, she's a little I don't want to say she's hot-headed, but she's forward about what she thinks is real, right? And it's kind of like she kind of gets disarmed of some of her agency at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you are just a pretty face that's gonna, stand still for the next 11 months.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. She like all of a sudden this character work that was done on her is gone. That's such a yeah, perhaps not the best Twilight Zone ever, but like visually and not even thematically, but like what the content is, it's cool and for what it's worth.
But yeah, and Andrew, one of the reasons you're still I still need to bring you in is I feel like you have done several films that touch sort of on this sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I consider myself to be a feminist movie maker. I mean, it's all over the Instagram for Gonzerific and everything. But we've a lot of times messed with this sort of thing about like what Jessica was saying about women not being believed, and to put people in order to put people in an unsafe situation, they have to first feel very safe and very secure, which is why I think they wrote her the way that they did at first. I mean, she's not afraid of, doesn't seem to be afraid of anything. So you just sort of go along with it. So you don't have time to sit there and go, ooh, maybe something's going on here. I mean, it's a little mysterious, but I feel like the suspense works because of the way they've kind of constructed it. And you know, as it kind of goes, and the idea of her sort of waking up, that's a really kind of key thing, because then people watching are going, well, perhaps everything I've seen now from here on is maybe a dream. And I always feel like that's kind of an important point in the story, is when she wakes up, because you're like, okay, well, is she awake?
Yeah, that's something like when you have a vivid dream and you wake up, sometimes you have a few moments of kind of like having to reassess what reality is. Like, you know, I actually do still have all my teeth. That's good. I've had
Totally.
I've had a few times where I had like lucid dreams and then got up and then went downstairs to breakfast, and that didn't feel like reality for like 10 minutes or so. You know, I like had to like readjust to like real reality because I had just you know.
Did you willfully lucid dream or like accidentally lucid dream?
Both.
Okay.
I can manage to like start it myself maybe twice a year.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
You know, I keep saying the Tibetan monks can do it like that. That's why they're monks. They can do it like every day, right? But
Well, I mean, David Lynch literally has a school where he teaches people how to do it, because that's where he claims to get all of his inspiration.
oh wow, yeah, I want to go to David Lynch's school. Actually, this episode has a very Lynchian feeling, with people having kind of like weird reactions and things like that. And again, you know, we were asking all those questions at the start, like how do they need to eat? You know, that's like kind of stuff that goes through Lynch films. You know, Lost Highway, you're not going to answer any of those questions.
Yes.
Yeah. And Anne Francis and Elizabeth Allen, that dynamic that the two of them seem to have there through the you know, the whether or not we can rely on Marsha's characters being the narrator.
Yeah, I do like how the saleswoman seems completely obnoxious the first time you watch it, and the second time you watch it, it's like, oh, actually, she's kind of holding herself back, like she's already
Also,
lost
why
a day
didn't
of her
they
trip.
take the opportunity right away to, I mean, this is giving credence, not that it needed credence, to Andrew's thought of like it was a dream, that all that happened beforehand. But why didn't they try to remind her that she was a mannequin when she went up to the 9th floor to begin with to get the gold thimble? Essentially, like that would be your opportunity, folks, you know, to do that. I will say the uncanny valley shit with poop. I will say the uncanny valleyness of like the great artwork with the mannequins' faces was really freaky too.
I think they were all cast from the original actors' faces.
But I've seen that look bad even
True.
today. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just was more impressed with the overall quality and still looking like them. Although I have some serious questions as to what was going on with those ski masks. There was one that was really questionable, but I will refuse to comment further.
Mid-century
Extra terror. It was
ski
pretty scary.
fashion. I don't know.
Well, no, yeah, there was one that almost looked blackface-ish, and I know that that was not the intention, but I couldn't place what kind of mask that looked like otherwise, so it was off-putting for that reason also.
Yeah, more and more I keep finding like the big effect for these episodes. So I guess this would be the mannequin creation. I just imagine like the art director like running around Hollywood going nuts trying to make these things. And the other one, I didn't really just fully pick up on this till my last viewing, which was actually 30 minutes ago. But there's several shots where clearly someone is at the bottom under frame, like just shaking the mannequins. And I was like, that's funny. Like
Oh yeah,
that's
I'll
the
have to
effect.
watch it again to see if I could. Well, because they also blew their budget on the like amazing look of that department store, and so they need to cut corners somewhere.
I do notice that this is a pretty early TV example that I think passes the Bechdel test. I mean, they don't really talk about another man anywhere in here, except for like this guy's in charge of the store or something.
Well, so the Bechdel test is just have a scene where you're not talking to a man or having the character's motivation be about a man. And you're totally right. There are several scenes where that's not the motivation whatsoever.
Like or a wedding. They're not talking about a wedding either.
Right. A situation in which a partner that's typically male would be involved.
Yeah, no, that's super good that you mentioned that. So that's why I love the Twilight Zone. One of the many reasons.
They would have screwed up the whole thing if she had been getting a gold thimble for her wedding. That doesn't seem like a good present. Here's a thimble. Enjoy yourself.
It looked like a ring too, of all things. Like I just love that she needed a thimble. It was a very odd thing to come and get.
With the whole thing's I'm coming for a thimble. Then of course, we got the store, the ninth floor with just one thing. The ninth floor was listed as R, I think.
Yeah,
Was it
which
later,
what
like,
is does
I
that
guess-
exist in buildings at R? A roof?
Yeah. Does the elevator come out to the roof? Is that what's supposed to happen?
That would be
How
the
you gonna
theory then.
How are you gonna get to the roof? I guess.
Yeah. Raise the roof. And then I just noticed they had a basement, ground mezzanine.
And garage. Oh, ground.
It could be garage too. I don't know. I was just thinking in Japanese, in Japan, it's all like BGM music, background music. So I was for a second, I was like, oh, is that why it's called? Because they play it in stores. Like, oh no, it's background music. Duh. That's called overthinking it, I guess.
But still, it's not surprising that you'd be like, oh, that looks like a thing I know.
This must be the first time on television that Marsha was screamed as well, which
right.
I thought of that when I was watching it.
It's like 10 years earlier. I'm like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Marsha. I wonder if that character is even influenced by this character's name. Even subconsciously. Probably not, but
I could see that. Yeah, because it is. I mean, the Brady Bunch themselves are like a group of mannequins, more or less.
Yeah, they have the mannequin timeshare for an extended period.
Although sometimes I do try and Mike Brady at the work, when I'm feeling saucy, I'll put on a ridiculously psychedelic dress shirt under my suit jacket. There's one that apparently makes me look like a couch, but
a couch.
Yeah, it's the most subtle of them, so I wear it the most often. But it's just
gotcha.
like brown amoebas, right? So, but
for sure.
I could never get the. Well, I guess Mike Brady had a perm. I could get a perm and then do the Mike Brady afro if I really wanted to, but that sounds like too much work. So
that's what conventions and Halloween is for. You go all out for those. And if you were to get a perm, then you could brush it out and do Austin Powers too.
Oh, I gotta ask Andrew, how long are the Halloween stores open, and how long after Halloween do they stay open?
Not very long. I mean, they're open probably. I want to say maybe about a month before Halloween, and then they close within 2 days of Halloween being over. I mean, the clearance sales begin before Halloween even happens.
Now I know they remade this episode for the '80s series, but if you were to remake it again, it would be kind of cool to have her in the like after hours in the Halloween store.
That would actually be less terrifying for me. That would be much more comfortable.
Then it would have the ring of like a "Are you afraid of the dark" episode. Did either of you watch that?
I'm aware of it, and yes,
Aware. Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
I was a kid during the heyday of that, but still was
Yeah.
sufficiently freaked out and had a hard time watching it. Or like Erie, Indiana, where like weird things like that would happen.
Yeah, those are to me kid versions of Twilight Zone.
Yeah, totally. I'm just thinking like, I want both of you to answer this too. If you caught yourself in a department store somehow after hours and you were the only person, what would your reaction be?
Okay, take a
Matt,
nap.
you want to go first? I have a definite answer.
Okay.
I've given some thought to this on more than one occasion.
Because you
Now,
were afraid it's going to happen to you.
now
Well,
one
yes.
thing is a 60s department store and a modern department store would be very different creatures. So I guess I'm going to go with the Japanese department store. So I'm going to explore the tofu machine. I found a tofu vending machine at the
What?
Japanese department store a few weeks ago. I do have a picture. It has 9 different kinds of tofu, ranging from 150 yen, which is $1.50, to $20 for tofu. I guess it's like the really
Wow.
nice tofu out of a vending machine. So that would just be my big excuse, I guess, to, get into tofu. I don't know. You have to find something to do though. The doors are locked, and you don't want to break the glass. It seems a 60s department store would have a security guard walking the floor somewhere. So that's a little bit of a lack of something.
Well,
But
if you don't want to be there, you get the heck out of there and break that glass and move on. You just do that, which is she didn't want to be there. So why wouldn't you want to break the security? Or
yeah. I'm gonna. This isn't the first time I've claimed this on the podcast. I'm gonna take the Save by the Bell solution, where they are in the mall after hours, and just they all go into the tent in the outdoor store, and the episode makes it look like really like ha ha ha, they're gonna hide in there all night, and you're like, wait a minute, that's like 5 teenagers hiding in a tent all night. What's gonna happen in there? Now in my case, I'll just be in the tent because I'm alone, I guess. But yeah, go to the outdoor section, go stay in a tent.
That would be an intense experience.
That's
Get it?
right. Yeah.
I would probably look for the other button for my overalls, just like Corduroy did.
Okay. The corduroy.
And that's my
solution.
answer.
is that a bear?
Absolutely, it's a bear.
Okay, I remember that kind of. Is that the Teddy Bear's Picnic? It's not Teddy Bear's Picnic, right?
Nope, it's just Corduroy.
I remember that. You're like waking up a core memory or something for me.
I can tell you this the crib notes version of Corduroy if you like.
Yeah, let's go. What else are we doing here?
He's just Corduroy is missing one of the buttons on his overalls, and the little girl who is going to buy him, mother says, "Oh no, look, this one's missing part of it. You don't want this one." And so poor Corduroy doesn't get taken away from the store. He's like, man, I got to find this button. And so, yeah, once the store closes, he goes looking for it. And, the girl comes back the next day and he doesn't have it. And she's like, I'm taking you home and got a little bed for you. I'm going to sew on a brand new button for you. And that's the end.
What's the greater allegory for that? What's the moral of the story for that?
I think it gives one a very secure sort of a feeling that because you identify with Corduroy being lonely and feeling like he's not worth anything and that there's something wrong with him. And if he could just be what he thinks he should be, then he would be valuable. And then, of course, at the end there, she says, I'm only sewing this on to you because I think you'll be more comfortable, not because for some reason it makes you look more like a good toy to me. And I always thought it was great that they mentioned
that actually is important, that they're not fixing him.
Yeah, it's kind of like
so
you were
sweet.
saying, like they couldn't have possibly known, but wow, how forward was that?
That's so sweet.
Because Marcia here, she's got like 11 friends at least, right? I mean, they don't talk much, but she's clearly part of I assume it's 12. I assume it's a mannequin a month, but yeah, I didn't actually count
the deep dive sidebar of Corduroy that happened.
That was the
sorry, you
that was the whole purpose of being here, was for me to learn that.
There we go.
That was off the top of my head. I go from being the guy who's scared of mannequins to the person who can find the meaning in corduroy. I feel as though that was the purpose of me being.
That has value.
So,
All right.
Jessica, what are you gonna do in your closed department store?
I'm gonna go try on some clothes. I'm gonna wreak havoc. I'm gonna try to enjoy. I might freak out a little bit. Granted, I might be a little. I'm not saying I wouldn't be scared a little bit. Of course I would, but I find a mag light, carry a big mag light around with me in case someone pops out of nowhere, and try on some clothes. 100%.
It's kind of like Night of the Comet, what they do before the zombies get there.
Oh no! Now I definitely won't enjoy myself if that ever happens.
Now, my
We didn't
question.
mention it- I'm sorry.
Oh, you can finish your thought there.
We didn't mention Anne Francis. It's mentioned in late night double feature picture show.
Yeah, I
The
called her
song
Sci-Fi
Rocky Horror.
royalty. Yeah. I called her Sci-Fi royalty. She's in
True.
the song.
She's Rocky Horror royalty.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which you did. Yeah, you did your cover version last year. I put it out.
Oh,
Your daughter.
God. Yeah, that's right. She was on there.
Yeah. So my question is, which of these are more unsettling for everyone? Mannequins, puppets, or ventriloquists? Andrew, are you down with is it the mannequins? I feel like you're cool with puppets. I don't know about
I'm actually
ventriloquists.
sorry to use the word actually. Holy shit, I never say actually. I'm
You
going
actually said actually.
I'm going with animatronic. Can I do that?
Yeah,
Yes.
sure. Why?
Because they're the worst. Just the worst.
You're gonna qualify
Yes.
that statement?
I mean, from Showbiz Pizza and Chuck E. Cheese all the way through the Hall of Presidents and Pirates of the Caribbean. They're absolutely the worst. And they're in It's a Small World, to your point.
How about an animatronic dinosaur?
Oh, like in Tammy and the T-Rex.
I guess no. I'm thinking there's a science museum near here that just has a fantastic animatronic T-Rex. And
I know they need to be for the Uncanny Valley to work. They need to be presenting as human.
right. I directed a improvised X-Files, and one of our first episodes, we got suggestion of animatronics, and it was obviously they came to life, but it was a sufficiently creepy episode. Sorry, Andrew, you're gonna have nightmares.
It was over when I started the episode, so I
it.
appreciate that, but it's over.
Got it.
so you got to flip the schedule. So it's my night, your morning.
Poor thing.
That would. Okay, well, the last time I tried to watch Tourist Trap, I thought, well, I'll watch it early in the morning. All the lights are on, the sun is out. But
It just
I
ruined
was
your
cool.
day.
Well, it got to be nighttime, and inevitably I was by myself. And, everybody else in the house was asleep. Go to take the dogs out. Next thing you know, I've got to ascend the staircase in the dark, and wouldn't you know it, they're right behind me.
When I ask my students in Japan, like, what's the worst movie you've ever seen, or as I often have phrased, what movie don't you like? Often I'll get an answer and I'll say why, and they'll be like, it was scary, and it's usually something like a Harry Potter movie or Ghostbusters, and it's just kind of weird. They're equating like this movie is bad with this movie is scary.
Oh.
Like,
Well, I think that's true for children, right? Like, if it's something you can't watch, you might assume that would be bad. It's just not
like
surprising.
High schoolers here. These are high schoolers telling
Yeah,
me
but if it scarred them, like if people watch was it the first Harry Potter where there were giant spiders, that will ruin somebody's experience for sure. If someone doesn't like spiders, is my point.
Yeah, see, I have the thing where where my daughter is into Harry Potter for a little while, and it was like, oh, you can't put on the movie because my mother-in-law is terrified of it. The 6-year-old's cool. It's the mother-in-law that's having problems.
That's interesting.
Well, I one of my favorite film moments recently was I keep mentioning the family view of The Shining, and when Scatman Crothers eats it, my wife screamed and my daughter started giggling.
You told me about that.
I know.
That's-
It's just I
that's
was like
just
that's
golden.
a perfect film viewing moment.
You have a horror file on your hand. That's going to be,
Yeah.
if that's how she reacts.
I shouldn't have shown her the Addams Family movie. She wants to be Wednesday now.
Oh, that's so cool. What? That's a great thing to look up to.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's about to be a Wednesday Netflix series.
Yep.
Wow, that's weirdly specific, but I guess that's how TV works now.
She's the most relatable character, right?
Yeah.
Like all the kids wanted to be her. That's where I'm going to stop that sentence.
I told you all the Addams Family memes are from the summer camp thing from Addams Family Values.
This is
Oh.
true. Also very forward for its time, being super pro Native Americans. It's very good with that.
Agree.
Yeah, it was 94, was it? Something like that. So a little ahead. I guess I'll start asking some questions then. The first of
Let's
which I
do
tend to ask around here is who exactly went into the Twilight Zone?
Mr. Armburster.
That was going to be my answer.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I thought. I kind of thought like he noticed it and then decided to like ignore it because from his perspective, he just has a weird customer complaint, notices that something insane has happened and just decides to forget it, which
Yep.
is that how to deal with the Twilight Zone? Just be like, that's a hell of a thing, and then you forget it.
There's a scene in Adventure Time where Finn sees a demon, and everyone's like, everyone's like, this is a joke. They were playing a joke. He's like, well, the demon that you guys made was crazy. And he goes, dude, there was no demon. And like at the end of the episode, he goes, that's going in the vault, and it's gone. He just deleted that from his memory. It's still in his subconscious because it shows up later in the series. I don't think it's the best way to deal with something, but that was not a battle he was going to win today.
Plus, if you've worked in retail, particularly in a store like where he works, that's maybe the fourth weirdest thing that's going to happen to you.
Well, there are a few people where in the Twilight Zone where if they chose to ignore it, things would have gone much better for them. Getting back to Walking Distance's Marty, if he just kind of like decided to roll with it, he would have had a much better time of it.
I agree. God, he needed to relax in some way.
Yeah, because Marcia has, considering that she seems to have some kind of like memory blackout, she's not acting completely unreasonably considering that she's had the experiences and is telling people and no one's listening, right?
Right. Totally.
So
yeah, I think I've said Armburster as a joke, but I think he is probably the only one that would, because if the mannequins are the Twilight Zone, that's the thing that's the Twilight Zone.
Oh yeah, when you said that, I was like, oh well, I think both of us were like, oh, that's the obvious answer. That's the only actual human character in this entire story, isn't it?
I mean, the other shop girl who tends to Marcia White is a normal person, I think she was like the first person to offer her, are you looking for something? And then Mr. Armburster passes her and goes, I'm looking for $100 out of you today. So she's also a through line throughout the episode as well.
Perhaps the Twilight Zone or the amazing savings you'll get from this department store's Labor Day sale.
Perhaps the Twilight Zone is that it's that many levels of a store to begin with, whether it's 8 or 9. It's a big department store.
The Tower of Terror.
Yes, it is.
Now, after that, I typically ask, do they deserve their trip into a Twilight Zone? There's really nothing to say about Armburster for that. I mean, he deserves worse, if anything, right? So,
yeah, he's definitely a yes man. He's definitely like, he's kissing the manager's butt. He's not his own man. But I don't think I don't know that you can apply the qualifier of deserving to this one.
So now I'm thinking about the mannequin saleswoman. She's inconvenienced, I guess, at worst.
She almost wasn't going to get her day in the sun, but also she could have just left if she really wanted to.
There could be rules, you know.
Right.
This. We don't know the rules.
Only one at a time.
Yeah. And how did this even get started? I mean, who rented that apartment if they have an apartment they
These
share?
are things we're going to lose sleep thinking about.
See, I'll lose sleep on that. Andrew's gonna just be screaming at the ceiling about mannequins and
No, I will be imagining the mannequin revolution where they all get together and just, just take the stairs and, go on a rampage of freaky terror.
They're coming for you first.
I mean, I want to talk about deserve. I believe I deserve that somehow. And that was by agreeing to do this.
So you prefer the chopping mall then?
Chopping mall.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's where their security robots go crazy in the mall.
Yeah.
Oh, gross.
I don't know what I prefer. I'm gonna they're all just not good options.
Killer security robots or demonic mannequins, man. Make
Okay,
your
yeah,
choice.
no, the security yes, the security, yes, please, 100 times over the robots, yes.
Maybe we'll get lucky. There'll be a solar flare and take out all the robots.
That would be, yeah. I want, okay. I'm starting to feel better about all this.
But then the solar flare brings mannequins to life somehow.
I like to use the term personnequins.
Yeah.
It's actually very forward thinking of you.
Where do we want to place this on the tripometer? If you want to keep it traditional, 0 is not trippy, 5 is very trippy. Except strange noises and decimals and imagine numbers as well. So
I think 5 trippy because it's like a fever dream.
Yeah. I'll say I'm not quite giving it a 5, and I have a reason for that, but I thought about it. So
I think just more because we have so many things that are unanswered that it's hard to place this in reality. Well, it's not pig faces or anything like that, but it's just a weird scenario.
Andrew, what's your trip rating?
I'm sorry, I have trouble thinking of this just on its own because I agree, but then I think about something further down, like 5 characters in search of an exit, where it's not until the very end, and it's so I don't know what's going on until the very, very end, and then you're like, whoa, there's the answer. And so for her to say I'm a mannequin, I feel like it drops it down just a little bit. So rather than a 5, but I'd still say a solid 4-ish.
Yeah, I was going to go with a 4 for me as well, and the reasons I have is visually, I guess mannequins are trippy to a certain extent, but there's just not that totally bizarre edge. You are just watching like a department store for the most part. The other one is I've given only 1 5 so far, which was A World of Difference, and the capper for me was that we basically had completely different interpretations of the reality of that episode, which didn't happen here. This one is the rules maybe aren't clear. How this works doesn't make sense, but everyone comes away with basically the same impression. And like, well, the 5 went to the one where we watched a different show, even though it was the same thing.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with Andrew, though, that if we walked away with Marsha White still going, I'm not a mannequin, I'm not, or whatever, and then being frozen in the I'm not, we would end up with the true horror flick. That would be awful and amazing, but it would probably be one of the better Twilight Zones and more memorable if it had ended that way, probably.
Or she's walking around the store, somebody knocks her over and her head comes off. I'm sorry. They're like, oh no, it's fine, we'll just screw it back on, and that's the end.
See,
I wouldn't know where my head was if it wasn't screwed on.
I intentionally didn't watch the 80s remake before recording this episode, in part because I want to make sure I'm talking about this episode, and I'm going to get to the 80s one eventually. But apparently the 80s one does end with more kicking and screaming. So
I wonder if there's like a story somewhere on the internet where it's like Rod had written it differently and it got like, watered down for TV or something? I wonder.
Because I think I actually do find it a little more existentially disturbing that she is just like, oh yeah, I am a mannequin, and steps in the
Sure.
line. Like I said, she basically loses all of her agency at that moment, which I found to be highly disturbing.
Yeah.
But not uncommon for women of that era.
Exactly, which is again why I'm like looking at this episode and definitely want to put the or wanted. I think we've put the proto feminism magnifying glass over it by this point. So
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think so.
Yeah, I'd rather do that here than with the mannequin movies from the 80s.
I look forward to being asked back for that series.
yeah, you want to do the
Mannequin.
mannequin series?
Why not?
One
Andrew
in-
McCarthy. He's got your
Yeah.
namesake. Yeah.
No, he wasn't in the sequel. I don't think. I think Kim Cattrall came back, but he didn't.
It was something like that. Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
we got it was like, oh, what was I just hearing? I think it was, oh yeah, it was George of the Jungle, where for the straight to video George to Jungle 2, the only person who came back was Thomas Hayden Church playing the villain. I was like, that's weird.
That's so weird. Why even do it at that point?
It's like Brendan Fraser's gone, but I'm still gonna, I guess he wanted a paycheck.
When
But
did
like,
that-
why did Disney make it, or whoever made that's so awkward?
that weird Disney sequel period where it was just because they knew on Friday night when all the movies everyone wanted to see had been rented out. There was George of the Jungle 2.
And there was Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Yep.
At least I have that quality of the first one to go by.
That's
Excellent.
right. That's right.
Very confident in this choice.
It's like Aladdin 2. They had someone else do the voice of the genie, but they still had Gilbert Godfrey, which is weird. And then they drove a truck of money at Robin Williams' house and had him do the third straight to video sequel. So straight to video is a weird gray area of reality.
I will say though, I do like Little Mermaid 3 because it's a prequel.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I would check that out. Little Mermaid was my favorite thing of all time. I remember the first movie I saw in theaters was Beauty and the Beast, but Little Mermaid was my fave.
Yeah, part 2 is kind of just a copy of 1, but 3 actually has some. It's got
storytelling value.
I mean, it was a good idea. I thought
Frozen 2 was good. Like that. It's not a pitch perfect film, but anyway, we could talk about that all day too.
I was gonna say I agree.
Yeah, I still haven't seen that. You explained it to me as being an X-Men movie, basically.
Oh,
like origin story.
Frozen is totally an X-Men movie.
Okay,
that's fantastic.
See, it's all an age thing because my daughter's 12 now, right? So about 6 years, or maybe about 5 years ago, like all animated things just kind of went, except for anime, of course, because that's what kids in Japan watch. But
Right.
I finally fell off of the Pixar wagon. Not in that I think it's bad, just as in like I haven't been like, I used to watch every Pixar movie, and now I don't. So
I think she should get back on for like Encanto and like Turning Red and stuff. She's like the perfect age for those kind of films if she hasn't watched them.
They're better now than they ever were. Luca's very good as well.
no, I need to see Turning Red because actually my office
Everybody should.
It's like
Turning Red. It's
well,
awesome.
it's like
true.
My office is like a mile away from some lesser pandas, so it's if I want to go see some lesser pandas, it's very easy to do so. But yeah, because I didn't know those were a thing until I lived here. Did you know lesser pandas were a thing before Turning Red?
I don't think I did. I think the design, like their look, though, didn't surprise me. I just don't think I knew about them.
Andrew, was that your introduction to the lesser panda?
Absolutely was, yes. And I loved
Okay.
it.
Yeah, because I started seeing them at the zoo like 10 years ago, and I was like, that's weird. Why haven't I heard of this animal before? We assume we've heard of like most of the common walking animals, right? So
Yes, and then you realize you just haven't.
No, we went through a thing where after we watched it, we looked them up and made sure they were a thing, and they certainly are.
yeah, it's fun. There's like you walk in the middle of the enclosure, there's an outside area, an inside area, and there's like logs above, and they just run above your head at the zoo.
Oh,
So
so cute.
yes,
Would love that.
it is a lot of fun. So Charlesiyama Zoo, if anyone finds themselves in Nagano, Japan.
Someone will.
I guess we'll wrap it up on here today because it's the Lesser Panda show now, which is very nice, but definitely a different topic than where we started. So Jessica, can you tell folks about your improv and/or your podcasting?
Yeah, I would be happy to. So you can, I'm sure there's a lot of audience crossover. You can hear me on Mission Log the Orville, where we're covering every episode of the Orville. And we do awesome interviews with creators of the show. And hopefully we'll do some interviews with the cast. We did do one with Seth MacFarlane. That was great. I do my own podcast, You Don't Know Nick, where we are supposed to talk about the next generations. And right now my co-host is on paternity leave. So you'll just hear me talk to my friends. And if you want to see me do fun stuff, that's sort of like improv, but not really, go to twitch.tv/Jessica Nerdy, where I play video games essentially for a living. It's pretty great.
Which games are your jam?
So right now I'm all in on this game called Vampire Survivors, which is just like a survival game where you have 1.5 million baddies attacking you. But I love Minecraft, and Fortnite's kind of fun for me. I'm dabbling back in Sims 4. I just got into Civilization 6 and I really like it. So I guess you would call me a variety streamer.
I can't play Civilization. That's like me doing meth or something.
It was 100% that for me. I actually was playing with two people that are very dear to me, and I treated them worse than I ever have treated anybody in my adulthood because I was losing. It was very unhealthy. So I took a little break. That game.
Andrew, you want to do your thing?
Yeah. Well, first of all, an honor and a pleasure to be here. This is a wonderful discussion, and Jessica, it was awesome to hear your insight on this show, and I am glad it wasn't just two dudes talking to each other, which I don't know that I would elect to listen to as a listener of anything. So but Matt and I have a long history of talking to each other, so it doesn't feel like we're doing anything out of the ordinary, to be fair. So Gonzorific, GONZORIFFIC. That's my friends and I. We make movies here in Athens, Georgia. By the time this airs, the premiere of our latest mixtape, Jigsaw, will have happened. That is, of course, where it's like Jigsaw, except for it's a woman who is capturing crappy internet movie critics and forcing them to watch other movies we've made. And that premieres at the Metropolitan Studios on July the 2nd. So that'll have happened already when we record this, and it'll probably be out for streaming and on sale at gonzorific.com and Blu-ray or DVD.
Sounds like the Gonzorific universe. That's fantastic.
I mean, it's just a
That's awesome.
So you
and we're all
explained,
to
you explained Jigsaw as being exactly what it sounded like to me, but as someone who doesn't watch the Saw movies, I got like a very different impression in my mind. So it wasn't exactly like it sounded.
Well, if you go to the Gonzorific's Instagram or Twitter at Gonzorific, you can get a look at her, and that'll show you everything you need to know.
As for this one, it's Time Enough Podcast. We're Time Enough Pod on Twitter, Facebook, all of that. On Patreon, it's Podcastius, where my pals and I do lots of podcasts. We talk about science fiction movies. I talk about whatever in oral hygiene. It's kind of a hard sell, isn't it? There's some video game podcasts there with Luke Loves Pokemon. Monster Mash will be talking about the new Monster Hunter game very soon. And there's a very aggressive game show, which involves British gamers yelling at each other and giving each other impossible quizzes. And Andrew, actually, Mark went in for a bout of that, so I guess we'll hear that soon.
Okay.
Our mutual friend. Okay, well, I guess this podcast just ends by us all standing very still for 11 months.
I think that's right. Someone else is going to be. I'm turning into a manic. Sorry. Thanks for having me.
Personnequin.
How long are we going to do this?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. That's the problem. That sometimes my podcasts are limited by like how long I want to hold a microphone. I do keep thinking about getting a mic stand, but I'm like, where would it go? There's like no place to put a mic. So
Yeah, but I have one that's attached to my desk. So
Yeah,
it works as an arm.
I guess you could do that. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Scissory thing.
I don't know. It makes me look like a shock radio DJ. So I guess that's cool.
I mean, it also does seem like it's your comfort zone for sure. So if it works, it works.
Yeah. It's kind of my shtick now, I guess. So
I get it.
It got cold again. So maybe it's the last day I'm going to go like suit jacket for a while. I might go for the Hawaiian shirt next time. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I keep forgetting these things are available for people to watch as well.
Yeah, but I don't promote that version at all. Like,
Good, because I didn't put makeup on today, but I'll be okay.
Okay.
Neither did I.
Oh yeah, I should mention that if someone does say like, please don't put up the video, I won't, because I know.
Oh, you totally can. I also believe that people should. I'm like when women can do both. You put makeup on, or also just be a normal fucking human being too.
Like for me, I'm like, if I ever watched a podcast that I was on, I'd probably like never post one again, you know? So
well, you got to get comfortable with it. Just like you get comfortable with your own voice after hearing it a few times. Like being on camera is something you get comfortable with eventually. And you're like, oh yeah, I look fine. Whatever. We just really have a discomfort with seeing ourselves to begin with, usually.
Yeah. Well, it's more that I just never
surprised to hear that about you.
Yeah. More that I just never watch podcasts.
You and I always, I mean, we grew up filming ourselves, you know?
Oh, it's not that I don't want to see myself on film. I just don't want to watch a podcast, I think.
They're
sure. Some people like that though.
I'd catch myself like picking my nose and, oh no, I'm picking my nose on camera. So
sure.
That means all the times I did surling and dried my teeth, all that's like, and I can go watch and see what that looked like.
You should have a hyper cut of it.
Yeah. Oh, that would be the best.
That would be amazing.
Serling got nice and weird. It didn't even sound like him by the end.
All right.
Well, I'm going to jump off, guys. It was nice to meet you, Andrew. Matt, thanks for having me again.
Thanks for jumping in. So we'll talk to you another time. Let me hit the recording.